Hi, I'm Justin Mickle, CEO and co-founder of NutriCompass, and welcome to an episode of Zero to One. I'm here with Michael Santiago, CEO and co-founder of FloraPulse. FloraPulse does a lot of stuff when it comes to agriculture, and like it's honestly pretty insane. You should really hear it from himself. Michael, what is FloraPulse?
Sure. Well, hey, thanks for having me, Justin. Yeah, so I've been working on FloraPulse for about a decade now, and what we do is we develop these sensors to measure the water status of trees directly, right? So we're able to tell you when the tree is thirsty, so you know when to irrigate it. And so this has a big impact in the final, quality and yield, because if you grow like house plants, you look at them and it's like, are they thirsty? Do they need water? I don't know. And so then you can kind of feel the soil and get a sense, but it's kind of hard to know when the trees need water, when the plants need water, and just by looking at them, you can't really tell. And so we answer, what's often the biggest question in agriculture, which is like when do these trees need water? Um, and yeah, so that's the gist of it. Now it's a cool idea, right? But actually, how to actually get to that is taking us, yeah, over a decade of research, because trees are kind of weird and you can't just ask them like how thirsty are you, right? And so when you drink water, right, you it's like, oh yeah, I feel thirsty, so then you drink water. But for trees we don't have that sense up until florapulse, but now we do. And so yeah, we've been kind of at it for a while. It's been a wild ride. It's like literal hard technology. And so yeah, I'm happy to get into the founding story and how kind of how things develop from here.
Yeah. So with FloraPulse, you guys take it directly from the plant, so it's like a thermostat for the plant itself. Um,
Yeah, it is a literally it's an implant for trees, right? So it's
mhm.
like a little thing that goes in the tree and it measures, in a sense, the pressure of the water inside the tree, which is
Right.
surprisingly difficult to do. But yeah, from there, if you know the pressure is here and it should be up here, then maybe you need to add more water.
So
That's the
why
idea.
would someone want to like water stress a plant? Is it to increase I mean, I've been on the
hmm
research as far as like your website. It's definitely it increases yield. It reduces water costs and like water consumption because that way you're not wasting any water. It's fully accurate and plugged into the plant.
Yeah.
Um,
So the idea is that, let's say you're gonna run a marathon, right? And
mhm.
so you need to hydrate properly and also eat properly as well, right? And if you don't, you will not be able to perform. And so if you overhydrate or underhydrate, it's still a problem, right? Like, if you have too much water, it's kind of hard to run. And so trees have the same problem where, at the beginning of the season, you want a lot of growth. And so at that point, you might be putting a lot of water and that kind of, stimulates the tree to grow faster. But if you keep adding too much water, then you can basically drown the roots and you can
Mm,
kill the roots because they're, it's like literally hypoxia. There's not enough oxygen. And so that's one thing. The other thing is, the by being able to tune the water allows you to control the physiology of the tree. And so, for example, at the beginning, yeah, you want it to grow a lot, so you give it a lot of water. But then at some point, you want to grow more fruit instead of just leaves and trunks. And so at that point, you actually want to cut down the water so that the
mm,
tree would put more sugars and things into the fruit instead of just trying to grow more stuff that then you have to prune.
okay.
Uh, but then there's things, there's a lot of funny like magic type of stuff that you can do. So for example, almonds, before you're gonna harvest them, you want to dry out the tree quite a bit so that the nuts will like split open, right? So it's called whole split, and you want the nuts to split open, and so by really stressing them, you can get that. And then I think the example I like the most is the vineyards. So
Hmm.
the best red wines are grown in dry regions such as Bordeaux and Napa Valley, and it is because the grapes are water stressed, right? So if you give the grapes too much water, then you end up with like kind of watered down, like really big grapes that lack that flavor. But
Hmm.
then by stressing the vine, you end up with grapes that are a little bit smaller, and then that stimulates the plant to create all these compounds that we really price, like the phenols and the smells and things like that. And so but it's a balance, right? Because if you give it too much water, you lose the quality. But
Hmm.
if you give it too little water, then you start losing a lot of yield. And so it's a balance that we help the vineyards do. And on the really high end vineyards, they might have really pretty low yields considering,
Hmm.
but then the quality is top notch. And so we kind of help them walk that tightrope. And so on and so forth. There's other crops such as cherries, for example, right? you want to keep them, cherries are related to almonds, so it's similar in some ways, but you want to keep it at a certain level. And then when the cherries are big enough, you really don't want to overwater them because then that can create the water goes into the cherry and can split the cherry. And at that
Okay.
point, your product is shot, like literally shot. And
That
so
is
these are things
insane.
that you really need to know from the
Yeah.
tree.
That's so cool. So, like the fact that plants need oxygen to grow, I don't think that that's pretty conventional wisdom for most people. So, if someone wanted to get into growing plants, um, do you guys have like a database that you're storing for all the information as far as like how to grow plants, how to water system properly?
So yeah, in some ways. So we we are lucky in that we are replacing an instrument that already exists. So we
Mm-hmm.
don't have to redevelop the science from scratch. Basically, a story is somebody in like the 1980s, I believe, they popularized the colander chamber, which is like this big heavy instrument, which is like literally a pressure chamber where you
Mm-hmm.
take a leaf and then you cut it and you put it in there and then you squeeze it until water comes out. And you know that the harder you have to squeeze for water to come out, the drier the tree was. And that's been shown to be like the gold standard for managing irrigation. It works really well, but it's really manual, right? You have to send somebody out, during the hottest time of the day to take these
Mm-hmm.
measurements. But there's all this research that's been done with this for the last, 40 years. And then FloraPulse, the advantage that we have is that we give you the same information as that instrument, but automatically, right? You put the sensor in and you get that data like 24/7, for the whole season. And
Nice.
so that way, yeah, people can just get that data and use the all the research has been done to really manage kind of irrigation. But that being said, right now with a tool like what we have, which is continuous water status, a lot of interesting research becomes possible, and so it's likely that over the next 5 years or so, the way that irrigation is managed will improve dramatically because of this, right? Because now you have way more data.
Yeah, that's super awesome. So, I mean, okay, now that you've gotten this technology, what was it? I know I read like on the website you had in 2016. That's when a lot of your stuff has gotten like done and published. Um,
Hmm.
and then the original inventor of the technology that you then improved on. That way we can that way you guys can like scale it and make it um,
Yep.
more more like
Yeah.
possible for like a B2B model. Can you tell us a little bit about that story? Like what happened there?
Sure. Well, it's a long story. And I think that it's probably been like 20 years worth of 20, no, a little bit even longer than that.
20 years?
Yeah. Well, no, I
Okay.
wasn't involved the whole 20 years, right? I'm not that old. But yeah, so basically, we have two professors. Well, it all started with Alan Laxo, who's one of the founders. He's a professor of plant physiology at Cornell University.
Hmm.
And then he was, advising growers to use the pressure chamber, the big bulky instrument. And then he was like, "Man, this is such a pain. It's so heavy, and he was like literally, it's like herniating my back because he was doing a lot of these measurements, and so he was
Hmm.
trying to find a better way of doing it. And then eventually he ended up partnering with Abraham Strook, who's another founder of the company. And then Abraham Strook had developed a technology to basically manipulate water at negative pressure, and it's important to know because the trees transport water at negative pressure.
So what is negative pressure?
So negative pressure is it's kind of hard to describe for liquids, but if you think of a solid, positive pressure, you take something and you squeeze it, right?
Hmm.
This is positive pressure, very easy. But then negative pressure is tension. So if you have a string and you pull on it, it pulls back. So
Gotcha.
that's when it's under tension, right? It's like you're pulling on it and it pulls on it, and so then you can do the same thing with water and liquids. It's kind of a weird physics kind of state, but it's possible. It's metastable, so it's not like a really stable state, but that's how trees transport water. Trees literally have, they move water from the roots to the leaves, and how they do it is they evaporate water at the leaves,
Hmm.
and then that pulls water like a chain, literally from the soil into the roots to the trunk to the leaves and to the
Yeah.
atmosphere.
Just like a straw. It was cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But then, the pressures are the trees are the pressures tend to be negative because they need to pull so hard to get the water out of the soil.
Okay.
Um, and so then, yeah, they kind of partner on that project, and then they got some funding from the USDA, so research funding, and then that started in 2007. That work of them together, and they kind of work on it for a while. And then I started doing my PhD at Cornell in 2011, and I joined the project in 2012
Hmm.
with Avon. So then I worked on this at Cornell for like 5 years. We got some sensors to work, and then after that, then we decided to start a business, and that's when I moved to California. That was in 2016, 2017. Moved to California, and then and then from there, we I can keep going, right? But you need money for anything. I mean, especially anything related to technology.
Yeah. So a lot of
Uh,
that
you
came
know,
from grants and
Yeah, so
research.
we took a different path, pros and cons to it, but we haven't taken any outside investment. The founders, me and the other two professors, put some money in, but
Hmm.
other than that, it's been run by grants, government contracts, right, and sales, right. So we started funding it with a couple of USDA and NSF SBIRs, Small Business Innovation Research grants, which are just an amazing program.
Hmm.
And then we kind of funded research until 2019 or so, and then we started doing some sales in 2020. And between sales and grants, we've been kind of keeping things afloat. But it
Okay.
is challenging. I mean, research is it's expensive, and good people are expensive.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a
Especially
balance. Yeah.
because that's a lot of work for that payoff to happen. Like you have to. So what are the process of going through this experiments? Like how did you? Because I'm sure nothing ever breaks, right? Like.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, so if we just start from grad school, right? Professor Abraham Stroke, who was my advisor at the time, he had the idea of like the system of how it would work, kind of like the physics of it. But then, from physics to actually having a working device is a whole process. And it's at that point, yeah, you have an idea, so then you have a design, and you try to build it, and then things don't work, and then you figure out why they need to work, and then you fix it, and then you just keep
Hmm.
fixing things. And so because it's a microchip, we built this microchip in the clean room here in Davis, but initially it was at Cornell, and the microchip has, in terms of like number of steps to get to the point, you're probably looking at like 100 steps, like literally
Okay.
from start to finish. And so at every step, something can break. And so, you start and you figure out, oh, this is not working. And then maybe you have to start again. And then you go again a little bit further. And so then you figure out why it wasn't working. All of that we did that for months to years. We got something that worked relatively well. And then at that point, then it was about trying to figure out how to put it into a tree to actually measure water status accurately. Because, you're trying to measure the tree, and then you have a sensor, and it needs to last for the whole season, and it needs to be, robust, and not like the water can't kill it because it literally lives in like moist environments, sunlight, how to make it easy to install. So you just figure out like a whole bunch of problems. But it just takes a lot of time. Initially, you just don't know. I had no idea what was involved, right? Like I thought like, oh yeah, it's gonna take maybe like 3, 4 years to get something really good, and then we're just gonna make a lot of sales, and it's gonna be great.
It'll be so
Um,
optimistic, right? It's always optimistic when you first start.
yeah, because you just don't know, right? And so you just see it, and it's like, oh, how hard can it be? But
Hmm.
then, yeah, you just run into a lot of issues, and honestly, a lot of the problems is that, well, you're just really naive at the beginning, right? So you don't know what you don't know. But
Hmm.
then a lot of it too is just lack of resources, right? Like if you're trying to do something really difficult and you have a lot of good people and money to pay them, then things are much easier. And so this is where it's important to pick, I would say, your market. Because, for example, if you're looking at something like AI, people are just throwing like billions of dollars at it because it's a huge market and there's a lot of enthusiasm. And so
Yeah.
there, even though the problems are really challenging, you can just get like really good people and pay them literally $1 million to start with you.
Yeah, but there's so much
Um,
buzz with AI. It's not always that like, okay, bubbles burst a lot, but
sure.
I think that things that are stable, things that are actually like long term, people, everyone needs.
Yeah,
Um,
no, I mean, so yeah, agriculture. I mean, clearly, civilization is built in agriculture, but the
hmm.
problem, the challenge though, is that if you look at agriculture as a percentage of GDP, is pretty small. Like the amount of, and so most of the money goes into things like software and AI and other stuff. And so then there's just not that much money in comparative
Yeah.
terms, like there is for other things.
Well,
That being said,
yeah,
we've done well.
like
Mhm.
sitting there and doing a long time research isn't sexy. Like it's not as sexy. It's very sexy if you're the nerd who's like interested in what's going on. But if you're some outside
Yeah,
investor, it's not always the most interesting thing in the world.
yeah,
But you guys have done something where you've increased the yield and reduced water cost and increased the value of per acre,
yeah.
and it's like solved. You've done 40 published research studies.
So we've if you look on the website, there's we've done none as a business, none. It's all been by third parties, right? So we
Hmm.
just published, we just put a list of like all the research. And it's like 30 something, close to 40 by this point. We're like scientists that are not us, somebody
Right.
in France or in Australia and New Zealand, they tested florables and then they use their other research and then they publish, right? So that's a pretty high bar because they have to believe enough in the product to buy it and then try it and have good enough results that are worth publishing.
Hmm.
But it's a pretty high bar. Yeah.
So once you figure out that you can do a thing, so going back to the researcher earlier, he's carrying this huge apparatus on his back, then starts looking into finding a new solution. Migrant solution is what he's, come across after finding research from someone else somewhere else. And then after you guys work on it from starting 2016 is when you joined.
I joined in 2012.
2012. Okay. Then,
Right.
2016, we're up and running. Company's been established, right?
Hmm.
And now stuff's breaking as you're kind of building because you think this will
Right.
be over in 3 years. No worries. But turns out it's
Right.
like way longer than that because starting a company's fun. Um,
Right.
you see the tears.
Hmm.
Um, and then it's what it is, right?
It has its moments. It can be
Yeah.
really fun sometimes. It just depends. Yeah. There's, ups and downs.
Right. And so after that, you're back to solving the problem, pulling all this research. Once you figure out that you can actually do a thing, like when was that moment that you figured out, like, okay, here we go, we've solved the 100 steps it takes to actually like water
Yeah,
stress
but that's the thing.
properly?
You never quite get there. It takes a lot to get there, and in some ways, it's like the goal keeps receding away from you because as you reach the first goal, you're like, oh no, actually, you need to get to that mountain, and then you get to the top of that mountain. It's like, no, actually, the mountain to climb is over there. So there's a lot of that because
Hmm.
initially we were just trying to prove that the chip itself could work in the lab, and so I did that at Cornell, and that worked out well. We published something about that. But then it's like, how do we make it work in a tree? And that took years.
Mm.
And so we got some funding, and so we tested, and then it didn't work, and we tested, and it didn't work, and then we got some results that kind of worked, and so then we were like, well, it's kind of working, but kind of not. And then it was more about just getting reliability, right? So you're getting something that kind of works, but not always, and so then you need to, that you can't sell something like that, and so then you're improving the reliability of it. And then, once you have then you have a bit better reliability, then you're making some sales or you need more research. You need to know how to manufacture more of them.
Mm.
And that's like a whole freaking process of like setting up a manufacturing line. How do you find people that actually are good at manufacture? Because for manufacturing, it takes some very specific type of people. You want to find somebody that's not way too like clever because they get bored. And so you want to find somebody that's happy, to just do the same thing like literally day in, day out for months, years.
Hmm.
And these people exist. And so yeah, it took a while from that. And so, I would say we got our first commercial validation in 2019, which when somebody bought, like end of 2019, our first sale was to Chile, a customer in Chile, which is interesting. And so that was like nice. They gave us like it was like $15,000, 10 systems. And then yeah, around that time we also got some good validation from other scientists that it worked pretty well in almond.
Mm.
But if you look at it now, it's been 6 years later, and a lot of that has been just improving the way we manufacture things, finding grants. We needed to build a smaller version because initially you have something that works kind of okay, and so your market is like this big because you can only sell it to scientists that are like really hardcore
Yeah.
and that are willing to spend the time and effort to make it work. But that's no business. And so then you make it a little bit better, so you have market is a little bit bigger, and that's how it goes. At least for us, right? Developing technology is just taking time to kind of expand the market by making the
Yeah.
product more and more reliable.
Because
Um,
it's such delicate technology. Like when you first start, that in a lab's the best setting for it. So you sell to other researchers. But then once you get a little bit more like grace and like
yeah,
you know room
yeah,
to grow from improvements on it.
but a lot of it is just it's just driven by the market, so that you have to really
Hmm.
be smart about picking the market because, for example, um, we make implantable sensors for trees,
Hmm.
and right now the sensors we sell them, let's say for $700, something like that, depending the sensor, and if it's a subscription, it's much more than that. But you're looking at like at the most like $2,000,
Okay.
right? Uh, and I hired this like great guy, the
Yeah.
coolest. And so he works at he used to do pressure sensors for mammals. So we, literally
Holy
FloraPulse
shit.
makes pressure sensors for trees. And they make pressure
Yeah.
sensors for mammals. And so you can put them in like around the blood to measure the blood flow, blood pressure of a rat of a
Okay.
giraffe, of a pig, dog for research. But I can sell my sensors for like maybe $1,000. They can sell their sensors for $12,000, and
Oh
that's like
shit.
no problem, right?
Okay.
And so if that's your market, then you have like you have way more money to throw at the research and building the product, right? Because you're
Okay.
selling it for so much more.
Wait,
So
wait,
a
wait,
lot of
wait. Slow down, slow down, slow down.
mhm,
So you mean to tell me,
yeah,
right? So you make so every sensor is $1,000, right? I'm just trying to get unit economics
sure.
out, So okay, he's used to selling to for mammals because we're testing.
It's for
I
drug
could go,
testing.
okay, for
Yeah,
drug testing. Okay, that makes sense. That's a whole thing. I have to interview him at some point. And so you
sure.
guys are that would be awesome. So you guys are working together on selling this. So you're getting in contact with growers, with farmers,
Hmm.
and you're learning more and more about like, what your technology is good at, water stressing, and what it does well. You mentioned almonds, you mentioned cherries.
Hmm.
Um, did you just like through all the research studies and all the research that earlier over here learn all these things, and then you went to the commercial market with B2B and selling to like whole farms?
Yeah. So it's a process. I mean, the first sales were to scientists. Well, actually, it was the one orchard, but generally, yeah, the first sales were to scientists because they're kind of the easier user, right? They're just really eager to try new things. And so we've been making a lot of sales. So even to this day, most of our sales were to scientists. Uh, but then, yeah, as we became more
Mm-hmm.
confident in the technology, then we making more sales to growers.
Okay.
But it's a challenge because with scientists, it's more of a it's a you know it's a arm's length transaction where you sell them a sensor and they give you money and then they try it or whatever and that's it. But with
Mm-hmm.
growers, they want something that really works, that does more of a service, that maybe you install it.
Yeah, they want a
There needs to
product.
be right, there needs to be a nice interface to go along with it, irrigation recommendations, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, so the bar is way, way higher with growers. And so, we've been making sales to growers since 2020, and it's
Mm-hmm.
been coming along well, but we've made huge, huge strides in the last year or so. Because now we have like a really nice interface for growers, and so we have yeah, like we hire two people to do commercial, like specifically customer success and sales.
Right on.
And so we're really kind of moving forward with the grower story because now we're happy enough with with where the technology is, right? I don't want to sell something that we're not confident about. And so, and this is where technical founder, I was like focused on the technology, make the technology work really well. And then okay, now let's focus more on the sales. And so
Mm-hmm.
right now, yeah, we're making that transition where it's like instead of just developing technology so much, now we're like the main priority is to drive commercial sales with growers,
Right
which
on.
is just a different beast.
So I guess I mean there's so many different parts to ask about this. So one, the whole product development stage. You've gone. What was the process of like developing that entire product to solve the one problem of I want this to be a
Mhm.
small microchip that can put inside trees, and then with the technology for growers, how do they just buy one sensor per like every X amount of trees? Do they buy one
Mhm.
sensor for X amount of plants, or in a line? What is that story like?
Yeah. So, and so the technology, yeah, we got some grants, we developed the chip, then we developed the probe, like the chip into a probe, and then developed the way to install it, and then use our materials for how to do that. But it's all iterative. So you develop a probe, you install it, you have a way to install it, and then you develop another version of the probe and a different way of installing it, and you get some feedback from people like, oh, this broke, this didn't work well, and then you like tweak it. So you're constantly just
Mm-hmm.
like improving everything about the way the sensor works in the user's hands, but also about the way it's built, right? So you're trying to make the sensor more reliable, so then you tweak the way it's built. You're building bigger quantities, and so you need to set things up so it's more efficient.
Right.
You get like you train your employees, you have standard operating procedures, things like that. So a lot of it is just yeah, developing all these. It's just you're solving like a million problems, and then you have a business. That's it. And so you have to solve all these problems over time,
Yeah.
and not run out of money, right? But then, we have the sensor, but for growers, we have to develop a kind of a subscription, right? Which involves there's a data logger that
Mm-hmm.
records the sensor information and then uploads it to the cloud. So a data logger, involves a circuit board, there's a cell phone modem, there's a battery, solar panel, there's an enclosure. And so all of this, there's like a way to communicate with it. So all of this is it's a lot of engineering effort. And then that goes to the cloud online somewhere. And then on that cloud, then you're storing the data. You have to display it. You have to
Hmm.
have logins for the customers. So you're just kind of building all these things over time. It's gotten much easier now with AI, at least the software part of things.
Nice.
And so, you kind of been building that. But then, then beyond that, then you have to build just the way, how do you reach growers, right? So you have a better website, you have a blog, you have LinkedIn, you go to conferences, you give free trials to growers and to academics. And so you have to find a way to reach the customer, and then also the way to, service the customer, right? So how do we deliver this, right? So if the grower is nearby, then we can install it. But to install it in FloraPulse, I need to have an installer guy, rather, or a woman that goes out and that's a whole thing, and training them and everything. But what if they're in Australia, right? Then we develop a way for the grower to do the installation themselves, and we have some customers in Australia.
Hmm.
And so you're just developing all of this stuff, and a lot of it is like the typical business model canvas. You are kind of figuring out all these little pieces, and it just depends on your business. Like my business is very very tech heavy in the sense of like nobody else in the world can do this. Like I can say that proudly.
Yeah.
It's taken us a while, but nobody else in the world has this type of technology where you can measure the water status of trees directly for the long run.
And you get measurements every 20 minutes.
And you get well as often as you want, but yeah, we
Nice.
give them every 20 minutes, because that's more than enough. Trees are pretty slow, in terms of the water consumption, and so yeah, it just takes a while to develop all of these things to the point where you can sell them. And but this is where we took a slower route because we with
Hmm.
sales and grants, and so it's not that much money. But if you have investor capital, then things can move a little faster, but you also lose. Then it's also a little bit tricky. Investors are often, a bit of a rush, and
Because
you
they're
lose
trying to make their money
control.
back. Yeah.
Yeah, and it kind of sets in some ways the wrong incentives. Like I can say for sure, like, hey, if I sell to somebody, like, hey, you are our priority. I don't have investors. We're trying to make you happy. Whereas growers often get kind of shafted a bit, by some of these larger companies, because then yeah, the salespeople will just say whatever they need to say to make the
Yeah.
sale.
Which I personally don't like. I like the honesty that you guys have a lot with your company. Um, because it's very transparent technology. You're getting directly from the tree, directly from the sensor into the cloud. It's a bunch of information, but it's accurate. Um, so what was the process of like not just, first of all, where did the energy come from to do this thing? Because this sounds like a
Mhm.
bunch of work.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I mean, the energy, for me, I think the world runs on ego, to
Hmm.
be honest. There's other things too, but a lot of the I would say the bigger achievements are run on ego. And people just want to prove that they're better, that they're capable, that they can do it, that they want to show others that yeah, that they're just great. And so I think for me, I didn't plan to be a business owner. I got into research because I like it. I'm pretty good at it.
Right.
So then I started doing research at Cornell. But then, we saw this opportunity, and the way I saw it is like if I didn't take the step, me personally, to get this out into the market, no, it would just die on the vine. Like it would
Yeah.
just never have seen light of day. And it sounds a little bit egotistical, but I think it's true because you need somebody who's just like
Crazy
driven
enough
to
to do
make
the
it work,
thing.
and then again, it took us like a decade to get to the stage.
Yeah.
And so a lot of it was that, but a lot of it is like yeah, like I wanted to work on something that was exciting and potentially very useful, right? So I wanted like a big challenge that I could say, yeah, we conquered and we did something good for society.
Hmm.
And so this kind of hit that
Yeah.
that bill. Because you can have a normal job, which hey, nothing wrong with it. But like
Hmm.
with something like this, right? You're working, I get to lead, and literally create something that's never been done before, which is super cool. So a
Yeah.
lot of it is just that ego of like, no, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it. And then, but at some point, it's also just the commitments. So I mean, honestly, once I was in more like their year or two, then I have the co-founders who are, they're invested. They put some money. I put some money. The funding agencies, they put some money into us as well. We're working with other researchers who, are trusting us with their, like they want it, and so a lot of people, and then you have employees, so you have all these. For me, a lot of it's just been commitments, right? Like I've
Hmm.
committed to these people, and I want to make sure that I provide, like I'm a good human being, provide good services and everything.
Yeah.
So a lot of it, it's like, a lot of these times we're like, fuck, this is nothing's working or whatever. Then I was trying to figure out what kind of kept things going was just that idea, like, yeah, let's I don't want to let these people down.
Yeah.
Um,
Because I think people start companies where they're like, oh, I want freedom. I want to be able to like not be accountable to anyone.
yeah.
But then turns out you're accountable to
Well,
everyone.
yeah, but it does get easier over time, and then you
Hmm.
can build a business to be more like that. And right now, I am getting more to that stage where, initially when it was research, actually, it wasn't like there weren't that many emergencies because you're just trying to do the research or whatever.
Hmm.
But then, yeah, once you have customers, then it's a you have emergencies and fires and things. But now it's getting to the point where I've been able to automate a lot of things, have like really good staff,
Yeah.
and so then from there, it just becomes easier and easier to run it. And so, you can get to a point where the business mostly runs itself, and then you're more focused on like the bigger picture, which is, what you're trying to get to as a, CEO. You don't want to be in the weeds. You want to have really good staff and then trust them.
Okay. So what was that process like going from basically solopreneur to having a team?
Yeah, it's a challenge. I think it depends, right? Like it all, you gotta look at your strengths and then your weaknesses. And I am extremely, very, very strong on the technical side.
Hmm.
My brain just works really well, and I enjoy dealing with those problems, technical stuff. And so, yeah, I had to just learn the more human side of things over time. I'm a decent human being. I went to grad school. I did all that stuff. But then, yeah, running a business is different because people count on you, and you have some. You really, like, the thing that's been challenging is that
Hmm.
when you're on your own, like you're doing school or grad school, you're like, yeah, I'm gonna do my work. I'm gonna do great at it, and then that's it. If you screw up your job or whatever, it doesn't matter because I'm doing my job well, and so I can just be like, yeah, I'm gonna do really well, and that's it. But when you're running a business, then you have to, at least for me, it was just challenging to realize that I have to tell people what to do, and I have to set the standard, right? Like, you have to do this,
Hmm.
and if not, there's consequences, and you have to just, like, hold people accountable. And that, that doesn't really work very well with my personality. I mean, I've grown into it, but I think a lot of it was just that, like, needing to, like, judge people, to hire people, to fire people, right? And then, yeah, to try to be like motivate people, and to figure out like what does this person need to do well at their job, or like how much money do they need? Do
Hmm.
they need more time off? Do they need, more attention or less attention, right? More independence. So a lot of it is just figuring that out. And I remember and it just kind of over time, I would say we've upgraded the quality of people that we are able to hire too, and that's been huge. Initially, we were just like working mainly with interns. I mean, I had a really, really good. I mean, my co-founders are great, and we have a really good collaborator, so that's been always been awesome. And we had a really good engineer that worked with me for the first 4 years, so that was solid. Like, it was me and him.
Hmm.
But then, it was interns, and the interns are pretty good, but they're kind of inexperienced. They have classes, they have other things, and so it's
Yeah.
kind of hard to
You're not the
like
main
really
priority.
yeah, yeah, and so you have to work around that, but you're trying to run a business. But then, yeah, over time we've hired, really, really, more experienced people. And so, the manufacturing people that I have, they've been at it for a while. Like, and then I have a sales guy that's been doing sales for 20 years, customer success person who's been doing it for like, 15 years. And then all of that gray hair, it really helps quite a bit. Oh, but we have some younger talent as well. So
Hmm.
it's just been a challenge of figuring that out, and then figuring out how to hire people. It's a challenge, right? Because you want to be a good person, you want to like give people a chance, and you want to just like believe the best in people, but you need a job done.
Yeah.
And so then
And
how do you?
you did consistently well. So, okay. How do you know, what do you look for one when you know someone's going to be good at the job that you're like offering? And then how do you know what someone needs in order to be successful when they need help?
Yeah, I think with evaluating people like
Hmm.
candidates, it's more challenging when you are unfamiliar with the position you're hiring, right? So, for example, I was hiring customer success and sales. I've done sales, I've done some customer success, but I'm not an expert at it by far.
Hmm.
And so a lot of the challenges is figuring out like what does a good salesperson look like. I don't know, like, I didn't know. What does a good customer success, in this business, right, in agriculture, what does that look like? And a lot of it was just interviewing a lot of people, being mindful of our time, right? It was just like short phone interviews and checking resumes and things. to just really get a broad sense of what's out there, right? Like all that and then you can just see that you're interviewing people, and then some of them are just like really like way better than everybody else, and you're like, oh, okay, this is what a good salesperson looks like, right?
This is obvious. Yeah.
And then, and then you might interview like, yeah, like 15 people, and then you find like two that are just like, whoa, this is like way better. And then you realize like, oh, this is what you need. And a lot of that is just, you talking to people, and it doesn't have to be interviews, right? You can meet salespeople at trade shows as well, and
Hmm.
just kind of get a sense like that. And so a lot of it is just that, just being, taking notes. So whenever I interview people on the phone, I'm like, I have a document, and I have a specific question set that I always ask, and that way I take notes and I can compare and everything. And then when it comes down to the in-person interview, I have like a structured process because even me, I'm a scientist, but we're biased. And so if somebody's attractive or they're like, they can talk well or whatever, then that biases you to like want to like them.
Hmm.
But you want to be unbiased, but for everybody's sake, right? You don't want to hire somebody that's not good at the job. It sucks.
Right.
It sucks for everybody.
Yeah, because then they're miserable because they're frustrated because they suck, and then you're miserable because you're frustrated they suck.
Right, because then you're asking them to do things they can't do, right? Or
Yeah.
they won't do, and then it's just and it just sucks because yeah, so it's super painful for everybody. Obviously, worse for the employee, and sometimes I mean you have to fire people, but firing people is no fun for the business either. I mean, you're a
Hmm.
small business, then you have to replace them, so that's like a whole other multiple months of like trying to find somebody. You pay unemployment insurance, so there's a lot of things, and and if you have to be careful too, right? Like you can get sued over whatever wrongful termination and things like that. So it's that's one thing that running a business there's a lot of landmines. You have to
Yeah.
be very careful. You're liable for lots of things, right? Like if your taxes aren't done right, you can go to jail.
Yep.
The employees, if you fire somebody for the wrong thing, the just you have to be careful with all these different laws. And and they're there to protect employees, and I could see why, right? But a place like California, you have to be really careful.
Hmm. Yeah, you're definitely. I mean, it's walking on a tightrope in a in like a minefield probably is a better to describe it
Yeah.
because it's pretty calculated steps you have to take. Um, so okay, now that you've gotten like some semblance, how many people do you have on staff now?
So there's 8 people full time. But then, with interns and everybody and the founders and everything is 12
Hmm.
people. So yeah,
So
it's kind of
12
where we're
people
at.
total. Like everyone's doing the roles, and I'm guessing they're all killing it because you seem like you have a
Everybody's
pretty good
doing,
team.
yeah, they're all doing well at what they do, right? Yeah. And so
Hmm.
yeah, the people are, I got a good team. I'm pretty happy with it. Yeah.
Nice, nice. Um, so when it comes to like building those relationships and then finally like going and executing, what does that look like in the day to day? What do the operations of this business look like?
Yeah. So agriculture is very cyclical. And so the day to day will depend on what time of season it is. But if we just start with like right now, right, like the season of like when the trees start growing, it starts in March, let's say,
Hmm.
February, March, April. And so this is the time where everybody kind of needs the sensors. So right now, in an ideal scenario, we have a bunch of stuff, a bunch of product in stock, and we just, and then we would just be shipping. And so right now, I have the staff that ships, and so it would be me being there. They're shipping. They ask me some questions. I make sure that we have enough things in stock. I'm kind of, talking to my manufacturing guy. I have two of them, to my shipping guy, the customer success person has some questions, the sales guy has some questions, some emails, phone calls. I have the Melissa who does the clean room work. So she has some questions that I have a programmer. So a lot of it is, if things are going well, is you're just kind of managing people, right? Like in the sense of like not even managing, but you're just like enabling them to do their job, right? Like they have a question, let's answer it really quickly and kind of keep going. But then, I have to get my hands dirty quite a bit. And so it's often like me trying to sit there and like code up like an improvement to the dashboard while
Hmm.
also answering these questions. So as a CEO, it's pretty hectic now, especially because, yeah, the season is going and we're a little bit late with deliveries. And so right now it's just like go, go, go. And I have to be there and try to figure out ways that we can make it better. And,
Yeah.
you're trying to orchestrate this whole so that everybody's kind of doing their job. And then, you might be like, for example, the Melissa does cleaning work. I told like, yeah, hey, I need you to do this experiments in the laboratory because we're having some problems with the probes, right? And so then I had to and then train her on that.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of that, and then but then let's say in around August or so, things will slow down because the product's been delivered. Most things are running pretty smoothly. And at that point, you're kind of just thinking more about the future. And so you're trying to figure out how do we drive more sales. And so you might be, writing mailing lists and writing emails to people and, buying inventory and making improvements to the system. So it's just again, it's like, you have like a million problems to solve, and so you're kind of solving them, and then you give some to people as well to solve. But that's
Mhm.
that's kind of the gist of it.
I feel like it should never be underestimated the amount of effort that you have to do, like not just as the leader, but as a person who's also helping run the company to be one to jump in and actually do the shit, you know? Like I,
Yep.
but I know that definitely there was a transition where you were always running it and you were always in it to now you're kind of like you're in it, then you have to engage when it's really at the times of year when there's stuff going on. So what
Yeah.
learning happened there before you could like make those good judgments?
Well, you become you have to learn to delegate.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's a challenge, but then again, you also need good people, right? And so if you're having problems delegating, it could be that you're not very good at delegating, or it could be that the people you're delegating with are not, that this is not their thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so a lot of it was just that, like just figuring out. Um, yeah, honestly, that good people just make everything easier. So a
Yeah.
lot of it's just been figuring out like how do you hire really, really, really good people that already know what they're doing,
Okay.
and then you just trust them.
What does good look like? So it's I know good communication, transparency is pretty important. Like there's some
Ah,
stuff here, but what do you look for
yeah,
when you look for good?
yeah. But what you want is you want to. No, it's. I mean, those are important, but I mean that's just table stakes. What you're looking for, what I look for is demonstrated ability to do the job, right? Like and so it depends on the job. Like
Mm-hmm.
for example, the clean room worker. I've done clean rooms, so I know what I know, and so I'm an expert at that. So I know what it was like to hire people to, what I needed to get there, and so I got somebody that literally did a PhD on that,
Mm-hmm.
and I interviewed a few people, and so she came by and she showed me like I built this, and I could ask questions, and I could really see that she did like this really difficult thing that requires a lot of persistence, and just the drudgery, right? Like going in the clean room, building chips, something doesn't work or whatever, and she did that for years. And also good attitude, right? And was excited about the job, the
Mm-hmm.
work and stuff. So a lot of it is just, yeah, can you do their job? If you look at, so that's it for like that, for example. If you look at, let's say manufacturing, for example, I I've done great with people that have done manufacturing before and that were at that job for a long time, right? So because manufacturing, you tend to you the one of the challenges that you have turnover, and so you want to find people that have been at their previous position for years, right? And so one of the guys that I hired, he worked as a manufacturer for another company for like 10 years, and he just came across really well. I
Mm-hmm.
tested him, like literally building probes during the interview to make sure that he had the dexterity. And then so, can he stick with the job, right, for that job specifically? Can he do it well, good attitude? Um, then, for example, when I looked at sales, or I was hiring for sales, I was looking at like what they've done. And so, if I interviewed somebody and they said, which happened, like, hey, yeah, I made $500,000 for this other business in my first year of sales.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'm like, okay, well, yeah, then great, right? And then you talk with their supervisor, right? And they say, yeah, this guy was great. This one was great. And so that's how you know that they were able to do it, really well for years. But the thing is, these people are expensive and they're not, they're kind of hard to find a little bit. So,
Yeah.
but if you have the funding, then it's good. Likewise with something like, let's see, engineering, kind of the same thing. You gotta make sure that they can actually do the job.
Mm-hmm.
And so that involves, the skills, right? The technical skills potentially, but also just the follow through, the persistence, all the being a nice person,
Having a
consistent.
reputation, having a good reputation has helped out a lot for sure.
Right. So you kind of have to look at what people have done. And so even this is where, hiring people out of college is a little bit scary because they don't have as much of a track record. So it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
harder to gauge that. But even then, I mean, if people are good in college, they've done, lo- let's say, lots of clubs and stuff. But I've learned that, yeah, like previous performance is the best predictor of future performance. It's really because everything else can be gained, right? Like if you ask him like sell me a pen, right? Like that happened in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Then with DiCaprio, sure, but does that mean they can actually, they can sit there and like call a bunch of people,
Yeah.
email a bunch of people, follow through,
Sending
not
text
bullshit them.
messages, nurturing leads,
Right,
even
right.
if
So
they
there's a
go
bunch.
apologize if they mess up in the relationship and they're going, hey, like let's keep going in steps. Yeah.
And I mean, like for example, for sales here at FloraPulse specifically, it involves a lot of driving. So you have to find somebody that's happy with that. And a lot of
Yeah.
people are don't. I would hate it. And
Driving's
so you
so
have to
fucking
find
fun.
somebody. Yeah, but some people just love it. They just like the
Yeah.
excitement and whatever. So you have to find, and again, just the best is just the previous performance. But other than that, right? You're looking for people that are smart and driven,
Yeah. Intelligence is very important.
and just
Um,
recommendations, right? Like I talked with somebody, a student that finishes this summer, and we'll see. I might hire him. And what changed everything? I talked with him at a conference, and I was like, it was pleasant conversation. But then he told me that he worked for an advisor that I had, and then I contacted that guy, the advisor, and he said like this guy is great, like he's just amazing. And I was like, all right, I trust my advisor, so okay. And so I am very likely to hire this guy just because of that recommendation.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, and that's really awesome because I think it's just interesting how much trust matters in all these different things, but like it really does keep the gears turning, keeps the wheels flowing. If I can trust you to do a thing, then it's like trust is just so important. Um, I guess
right.
my next question is, well, let me make sure I plug in my laptop.
Sure.
But let's see, what's your mission with it? Like with FloraPulse, like what was that mission earlier that started? It's good for the world, obviously. It's increasing crop yield and doing all these big
Mhm.
things, but what's the mission?
I mean, I think the vision has always been to really, get this technology out to the world, right, as best as possible.
Hmm.
And it's kind of shifted over time a little bit, but yeah, the idea has been like, yeah, there's this like huge potential in this type of technology, and so somebody has to get it out there, and so that's been the goal, right? Just how to get this out there, as quickly as efficient as possible.
Yeah.
And then from there, because the thing is, we have this tool, and that tool can be used for a lot of different things. And so we're helping the researchers do like really cool research, and then the growers also like improve their yields and everything. But a lot for me is just like about building the best tool possible that people really like, that people really use and benefit from.
Hmm.
Um, and then, from there, so yeah, as an engineer, I guess I'm very tool focused. But and then from there, right, then we really help growers, like irrigate according to the needs of the tree. And that's huge because then they will have better health, better quality, better yields, fewer inputs, less water use. So it's just better control, right? Like a better control of their orchard. Um, so that's kind of it. Like if we just help, it's like a GPS for your field, right? Like to figure out where you're supposed to go, right? Now you're trying to get to, let's say you're trying to get to like New York, then you can just put it on your GPS and it kind of guides you that way. That's kind of what we do for water, right? It's just like a little GPS that tells them like, yeah, maybe you need water now or you don't, and then people can do what they want with that tool. So that's it. We're just trying to make it, yeah, as useful as possible. And yeah, help growers worldwide maximize yields and quality, and just kind of better fields where I grow food.
Hmm.
Civilization is built on food, like it literally is built on food, and so
Yeah.
it's a really important business, a really important market. In terms of, it's funny, but in terms of money wise, all the money goes to healthcare, defense is a big one, finance, but it's all built on food.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about how, so like the reason why the human brain is able to, it burns 300 calories a day, like on average, if we're looking at 2,000 calorie human being, but it's this machine that's piling the entire human body or whatever, right? I think it's so underestimated the importance of like how much food plays as like a role for us to function as human beings.
Yeah, well, I mean, if I've read some books about like civilization collapse. I think one of them is literally called collapse.
Hmm.
And then yeah, and it's often because the island couldn't make enough food. And so civilizations collapse because of lack of food.
Yeah.
It's just, and civilizations succeed because of availability of food.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, it's kind of interesting now because, like, what's it like navigating an era where we have more than enough food as far as calories are concerned, but not more than enough food as far as like nutrients is concerned, or people are
yeah.
not informed eating.
Well, no, it's huge, and I appreciate the work that you're doing, for example, and it's because for example, I am trying to be as efficient and as effective as possible, and this is it. This is the machine that
Yeah.
runs everything. And so keeping it, a tip-top shape is just extremely powerful. And the most important thing is diet. I mean, exercise is important, but
Diet's at
like
least eighty
diet is
percent.
like 90%.
Yeah.
Diet is literally 90% because if you eat poorly, there's just no hope. I mean, that's it. And so, but it's difficult, right? Because you
Yeah.
live in a world that, well, but it's difficult to eat healthy. Like you need
Yeah.
enough funding and time to be able to spend the money and cook the food
I
and
mean,
knowledge to know what's
yeah.
good and what not, and to be able to determine, what's real from what's
Yeah.
fake.
Well, it's just access and exposure. If you have access to, so like, for example, if you work out in the county and you have an egg farm on your land, right, you're probably going to be eating eggs and they're probably going to be really good
Mhm.
eggs if you're like feeding them, grass seed, if you're like doing good stuff with them, right? If you're exposed to environments where you have access to someone who has eggs, you can like ask them for eggs. You
Mhm.
can buy eggs from them. You can go directly from like wherever farm you go from. But it's difficult to when you're like, we're suffering a lot from like modern society. We have all the stuff,
Mhm. Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
But you have so much stuff that we forget the importance of like the other stuff that like keeps you alive. Um,
Yeah, but it's challenging because you're advertised like terrible foods all the time, right? Like
yeah,
there's this dessert like crumble cookies, the cheesecake, and it's fine,
I love
and
cheesecake.
yeah, yeah. But that's the
Yeah.
thing. It's like and then it's a drug, and so the more you eat it, the more you
Hmm.
desire it, and so this is where people. I find it really annoys when people say like, oh, just have a bite, just have a piece. No,
Yeah.
no, because then it's gonna drive you to eat more, and then you're gonna want it more the next day, and
Yeah.
it's just yeah, so it's a challenge,
Hmm.
and people don't generally eat that healthy in the US, right? And so it's difficult because humans want to fit in. You want to have like your own social norms, and
Yeah.
and then you don't want to be like the guy that's like, no, I don't eat that stuff. But if you're
Hmm.
trying to be healthy, you kind of have to.
It is difficult. I mean, a lot of it has to do with like the nervous system in, especially in the United States and like a lot of countries where we have phones, um, are pretty messed up. Like we're very like off kilter on a lot of nervous system approach. Like, um, I work with like a lot of students and I've seen a lot of stuff through the schools. Like I'm a community nutrition educator, so I see people with ADHD, like kids with ADHD problems. We're having a larger attention deficit outbreak because we have a short form scrolling epidemic. But and we're not
Mm,
socializing as much either. Like the ability to go from place to place to place isn't isn't being done anymore. Like
yeah.
back in the day, we used to like explore and do shit, right? You used to like have to leave a town to go to another place to go, get food or
Hmm.
something, but you'd socialize with like 20, 30 different people in the same day.
Yeah, no, and right now the smartphones are really harming maybe the younger crowd, but even the older ones,
Yeah.
because then it
Well, it
it's
hurts the older
easy.
crowd a lot because then the young crowd doesn't take care of the old crowd when they get old.
Yeah, but
So,
it's just that it makes it really easy to always have entertainment and every reward, and so then people that struggle is critical, is vital to the human experience. Like you
hmm,
have to struggle and overcome, and that's how you become more confident, and
yeah.
and you feel good, right? Like people are suffering from things like depression, and feel sad and stuff, but like a lot of it is just if you're accomplishing things, right?
Hmm.
Then that drives those feel good chemicals. So a lot of it is, and so this is actually why running a business is pretty interesting because you feel, you succeed pretty
Yeah.
often. I mean, hopefully.
What you work on works on you for sure. I mean, you succeed often after taking 1,000 L's. It's not even.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But actually, no, it's been the whole AI thing has been just huge, and so it's hard to describe, but it's been really fun running my business over the last like 3 months since I discovered Cloud Code because
Hmm.
wow, you're just able to do so much in terms of programming, and so we've been able to automate so much. So it feels like I'm constantly winning here, and building all like a really solid, structured business
Hmm.
because of that. So, anyways, I don't know where I'm going with that, but I'm just saying, yeah, it's the succeeding part is fun. Oh yeah, so on the whole smartphone thing, yeah, it's a problem because then people can be bored, right? They have like no attention span, and there's just a lot of misinformation, which I think is the real problem. So you're on
Yes.
Instagram, and you're seeing, let's say you're a woman, and you see all these like really attractive women, and they all are like perfect, and they have perfect lives, and you
It's,
feel like a total loser
yeah. Well, I
because
mean,
you don't
yeah.
but these women, there's not that many of them, the ones that are actually like that pretty, and most of them are just filtered anyways. And it's all a manufactured, it's all manicured, view that
Hmm.
you're getting, right? It's not the real deal. They're just making it look like that.
Yeah, it's been shown statistically like having Instagram increases is in like not direct propulsion, but there's a correlation
Hmm.
between that and um, relationship dissatisfaction because you've just been,
Yeah.
you can go on any website and see basically more women naked than a king of any
Yeah,
country in
also,
the past
right,
100 years. Like that's insane.
yeah, and as a guy, right, then I think for guys it's a little different, but for guys, yeah, you see other men like succeeding and hot girlfriends or whatever, and I guess that yeah, I don't know. I've completely cut out all social media. Not even LinkedIn. I'm not even there that often anymore. And it's just
Yeah,
because I want to focus on my thing, right? And I have, well, and now with these tools that AI and stuff, I have the ability to make huge strides and improvements. So I rather just focus on that. And then when my brain is shut, because I use it the whole day, then I'd rather just be bored
yeah,
than because these social media things, it's a bit of a drug too. It's
yeah.
another thing that's a little bit addictive, but in some weird way where it's not even that much fun. You're just like doom scrolling there because you don't have
And you're
anything better to do.
chuckling at someone else's jokes. I mean, honestly,
Yeah,
I take naps. I'm a big fan of the siesta. Like
yeah,
a
that's
nap
fair.
will set me right for like whatever I'm doing. Because it helps me manage my nervous
Yeah,
system.
yeah, no, for sure. I mean, now it's a good productivity hack. No, these days I just get up early. No alarm. That's one nice thing about being CEO. You don't have to have an alarm usually. Yeah,
I'm still using mine.
yeah.
Yeah, I got like 2
Uh,
years for sure.
Okay, yeah. No, so it's good. Yeah. So yeah, social media. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan. I mean, the problems.
Hmm.
Food is another one. The lack of social connection is a huge. And that's been ongoing. People have fewer like deep friendships,
Hmm.
spend less time with each other, fewer relationships, more superficial. I don't know. We'll see where everything goes. But yeah, but
Yeah,
things are improving in some ways as well, right? Like access to knowledge is like at an all-time high, right? Like
yeah.
in terms of like if you want to self-educate,
You
sky's
have
the limit. I
a
mean, you can.
infinite library, literally.
Well, but
Like,
the AI is there and it'll explain things to you as many times as you want with infinite patience. And so,
hmm
and if you want to do anything, again, like it'll explain how to do it. So I know that right now that the human potential is huge.
hmm
As an individual, you can do so much stuff. So I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I feel like the future is potentially bright or but very uncertain. I don't know where things are going, but it
yeah.
sure is exciting.
So how do you stay organized? You are running a
Yeah.
basically a hostile takeover with advanced technology on the plant and, understanding water tension in order to increase yield, agriculture market. How do you stay
Yeah.
organized?
The organization thing is critical, and you just become better at it over time.
Hmm.
But I have, I can talk about some systems that I use. In terms of like personal stuff, I have a notebook, and so every day I write down like what I'm gonna do for that day. And so every day it's a page, and it's like these things, and if there's like a meeting at 1, I have it at 1 p.m.
Hmm.
And so I think that's the backbone of a lot of it, where it's just like every day I just kind of look through that and write it down, like, okay, so what I do today. And that's huge because you can just kind of go through it and you feel good and you can just follow along instead of just trying to figure out what to do in real time. And then just having, yeah, like to do lists, but I just have like text files. Text file with things to do at the office, a text file with things to do at home, a text file with things I'm doing with the AI.
Yeah.
Um, and that helps too, because then you can like look through it. I do a weekly review of like every Sunday. I look like what am I gonna do this week, and then maybe once a month I'll look at like what am I gonna do during the next 6 months. Um, how keeping your email organized is super important. I mean, I get 50 emails every day at least, and so then just kind of being able to go through that, unsubscribe for everything, have like labels for things, and then in terms of like running a business, I've discovered some really useful tools. So GitHub has been critical
Hmm.
for running things as a team because then people can post, and now with AI it's much easier too. But in terms of code, but also in terms of like manufacturing and stuff, you can create issues and you can keep track of them, and everybody kind of like looks at them and comments on it. So just having like that place there, just good systems. Right now we have orders and sensors that are out there, and we have manufacturing things that need to be done. And so just keeping good systems. And so it's just you build
Hmm.
them over time. And now with AI, it's so much easier. So I just been able to just build like dashboards for everything. Um, Yeah, and obsessing over it. I think a lot of just succeeding at business is just obsessing over it. Like you just like wake
Yeah.
up and you just think about it, and then you go to sleep and you're still thinking about it,
Yeah.
and you work as much as you can on it. I mean that's it. It's hard to compete with that.
No, it
Um,
really is, which is kind of surprising because you'd think that like it's really uncommon, but it's like if you're in it, it feels like it should be. And so it's a
well,
weird
if you're running a
justification.
business, yeah, but this is the that's the trade-off, right? Like if you're running a
Hmm.
business, then it's a 24/7 thing. But
Yeah.
otherwise, you can get a 9 to 5 job. It doesn't pay as well. Well, some of them pay pretty well. But then
Yeah.
you can hopefully work 9 to 5, and then you go home and you don't know anything else, and then you
Hmm.
go have a beer, drive a boat or whatever.
You can turn it off, and which is
It turned off,
yeah.
yeah, but you
I,
can't. And so, like, people sometimes ask me, like, "What do you do for relaxing, or how do you get away from work?" And it's like I don't. The way for me to relax and to get away from work is to get my work done. Like if there's a problem at the business, I can't sit
yeah.
still until it's fixed, and so I can't relax. I can't just pretend that it's not there. And so then, yeah, it's a little stressful, let's say, but
Ha-
that's
Have Have you heard of the 2 week test where you can like if you ever are able to leave your business for 2 weeks and nothing like
uh,
and it not be on
yeah,
fire?
yeah. Well, I mean, I've done that. That's fine.
Okay.
I guess we're past that
Yeah.
at this stage.
What's it like?
Yeah, I know it worked out well, but we have, like slow season and busy season. But I went to let's see. Yeah, last year I went on a tour de Mont Blanc. So I did this like 2 week trip with my brother and one of his friends, and so we like literally went to Mont Blanc, France,
Right on.
Italy, Switzerland, and we just hiked for like basically 2 weeks, and
Hmm.
I was like, yeah, basically completely disconnected. And my
Yeah.
employees took care of it, and it was fine. It was during the slow season, so that's
Hmm.
that's kind of important.
But you change your
Um,
environment and went outside, which is super important to do that
yeah,
because
and
then you're unplugged.
it was fun, but actually it is kind of challenging because my brain is so used to just go, 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 go. And
Hmm.
so you're just like at this spinning wheel, and then all of a sudden to have like nothing to do,
Hmm.
it's a challenge. And I do okay, but to be honest, I realized that I'm happiest by engaging like deeply in work, and but in a deep way, in the sense of like I'm engaging with customers and with
Yeah.
employees and with partners, and it's like
Hmm.
this fun game where you're
Being
fixing
present.
things.
You're at play basically.
Um, And so you're kind of playing, and then if you have, if the business is going well, there's enough money and things, then
Hmm.
it's pretty fun. I have a hard time just kind of, just taking a vacation, not doing anything. It's challenging. And so that's the advantage of a business. It's challenging, but you derive a lot of meaning out of it.
Nice. And so do you think that it's the pursuit of that meaning or that fulfillment that is what's like fills your cup and pays you more and that way you still have the energy to keep going or
Yeah, I think for me it is yeah, it's just like a really fun game. Like
hmm
it has its ups and downs, but yeah, then it's a game, and it's exciting, and there's new things every day and people, and so there's just a lot. And so at least for somebody like me, very cerebral, right? Like my brain is always kind of going. Then it's just really fun. Like I have to, and there's like challenges, and you win. So the reason why people get addicted to like the online RPGs, right? This like multiplayer RPGs, video games
hmm
is for that reason, right? Because they feel
yeah.
success, they feel like they're succeeding, that they're,
It
leveling up.
it's a substitute
Um,
though. It hijacks that
right, but
system.
then in a real business, it's like real, and you're
It
like
is.
actually making money, and it's gonna, it's improving your life, and you get accolades from it. So
There's
that part is
storylines,
really
there's
fun.
heartbreak, there's yeah, it's a lot.
And then you spend, like I've been at this. I mean, I've been doing this since 2012, so it's been like 14 years now, right, including grad school.
Hmm.
And so by this point, I am the world expert, and that's never gonna change. Like I am the guy in the whole world, the number one, right, that knows the most about like microtensiometers, which
Yeah.
is cool, right? And like, okay, I might not be, a multimillionaire or whatever, but I can,
But you know
yeah,
some stuff. Yeah.
I'm the guy that knows about this one thing, So if you're looking for microtensiometers, you gotta talk to me. So
There we
that's
go.
cool.
I mean, because I was doing research on him before the podcast to get make sure everything's working out. Just sure, I was like, okay, well, we're gonna be talking this verbatim. Um,
Sure,
we've
yeah.
already covered a lot of our bases, but microtensiometer is like that's just measuring tension in the plants using that straw mechanism we talked about earlier. Um, so it's
Yeah.
like it's under point one is low, over point one's high,
Microtensiometers,
like over one.
yeah, that's a little different. So We're measuring the pressure of the water inside the tree, basically.
Hmm.
And so humans have blood pressure; it goes up and down
Right.
once a second. So max, min, max, min. Trees have water pressure, and it goes up and down once a day. So it's maximum 6 a.m., minimum around 2 p.m. recovers. So that water pressure, the levels depend on the tree.
Hmm.
And so, for example, for almond, like an unstressed almond might be at -7 bars. It's in bars. 1 bar is 1 atmosphere. And then like a very stressed almond might be 22, -22. The numbers are negative because you are going like it's tension. And so the higher the number, right, like from 7 to 8, 9, 10, it's drier. And so almonds, right, you want to keep them at the beginning of the season, you want to keep them, I think, between 8 and 12.
Hmm.
And then, before whole split, when you want to stress them some more, then you want to keep in between, I think it's like 16 and 20.
Okay.
But for grapes, it's different. For grapes, at the beginning, you want to keep them, I think it's like 4 to like 7. And then towards the end of the season, you want to go 10 to 12.
Okay.
So it depends on the tree, on the crop.
Yeah. Number one spot for sure confirmed. That's because like, and this works. So this works over the course of the entire orchard or the entire, you know, farm where you
Yeah.
have, is it one plant for every 10? Like,
Yeah. So no, good question. What we do is we instrument one tree for the block, for the
hmm
irrigation block. And these are pretty big blocks. So for almond, you might have a block that's 50 acres.
hmm
And so for that 50 acres, you pick a tree that's representative and then you irrigate according to that tree. And the way it works is when let's say you want to start a field like an orchard for almonds, then you do a soil map and you figure out blocks that have similar soils. And then you have that block and it's all similar soils, and then all the trees there are about the same. And so then, to irrigate that whole block, you can just instrument one tree and then irrigate according to that tree.
Okay.
That's the gist of it. Yeah.
That's pretty good. That's really good. And that's what
And so
increases yield in trees and increases yield and makes a
it
farm that's already producing, let's say, 40,000 things. Because this increases by 15% or 40%.
it can, yeah, it depends on, the crop and a lot of other things, but we have seen yields of 15%. We've seen
Hmm.
water savings of 40, 50%. It just depends because, if you are if you're an expert and you're already doing a lot of these like manual measurements,
Hmm.
then FloraPulse is going to help you, go to that next stage, but you're already pretty good. But if you're somebody that doesn't do any of that and you just kind of irrigate by feel, like once a week, you just put water on it,
Yeah.
then you can see, yeah, pretty big improvements,
Yeah.
depending on just how well you were doing it before.
Yeah, I mean, I know in like Elon talks about this thing called the idiot index. So this will like lowers the idiot index of, maintaining a farm basically, where the complexity of understanding you need to do in order to do that thing well or to manufacture those results is
Right.
lower because you don't have to water stress as much, or that part of the thinking has been done for you.
Yeah, and that took us a while. That took me a while to figure out because the farmers, they want a product. They want advice. They want you to tell them put
Hmm.
water on it or not. They don't care about the sensor. They don't care about how it works. They don't care about whatever. They just want, like, hey, tell me when I put water on. And and it took me, yeah, as a scientist, you always want to explain like, oh, there's the widget and it has all these features and oh my God, look at the
Because you want to
technology.
nerd out, and they're like, just do I plug it
Yeah,
into
but
the tree and it works? Cool.
that's not gonna make the sale. That's not
Yeah.
gonna make the sale.
You gotta make
So.
it sound simple. Otherwise, it's too complex for me because that's a lot,
Yeah, but this
right?
is where
Like,
if you're a technical person, then you hire somebody that's really good at sales.
yeah,
Then
yeah.
you have them run sales.
hmm But it's important as a salesman to be able to understand both sides of the aisle, where it's I
Hmm.
can talk to the scientist, translate it to like a third grader, and then
Yeah,
now we have a person who has no idea what the fuck I'm talking about, knows exactly what the fuck I'm talking about, and that's the
yeah,
skill.
yeah. Yep,
Which,
yep, yep. Yeah, no, yeah. To be able to explain it, yeah, right. Good salespeople will be able to explain things well. Absolutely, it's critical. Yep,
yeah,
yep, yep.
the art of dumbing it down.
Uh,
um, but
yeah,
as
you just yeah.
yeah, as a scientist though, the what would you describe the main like function or I guess not superpower but thinking of how like what makes a good scientist?
It, it depends on what kind of science you're doing. I would say I'm more of an engineer than a scientist, so
Hmm.
I can talk about that first and then the science part. Um, but in terms of engineering, it's always this obsession. You just obsess, just you can't stop thinking about the system. And attention to detail is also super important, right? Like
Hmm.
just because the devil is in the details. When you're trying to engineer something, then it all needs to work right, and so every single detail needs to be done properly.
Hmm.
And then visualizing things in your mind is extremely useful as well. Again, more for like the mechanical engineering type of stuff, but even programming things like that. So a lot of it is just that attention to detail. Um, but for doing science specifically, I would say it's more of a curiosity.
Hmm.
But I mean, but you have to be smart and driven, and you need to have a lot of knowledge, right? So I think a big part of it. You need to know about a lot of different things, like very deeply, so that then you can produce new knowledge, right? Because
Hmm.
you're building on upon what's already there. So it's just that obsession, and then just kind of chasing down every single like little question you have to try to figure out how to go to the next stage. I find it funny because my advisor from grad school would say like, my goal is not to be useful, it's to be interesting.
Mm.
And so I think that's a good scientist motto, where they're just more into it for the curiosity part.
Yeah.
But yeah, people like me who are just driven by the usefulness of things, right? Like just how do I build something that's really useful?
Yeah. What's the function of it? Awesome. All right.
Yeah.
This has been Michael Santiago, ladies and gentlemen, Zero to One Podcast. Thank you so much,
All right.
Michael.
Thank you,
Um,
Justin.
all right. Have a good one.
All right.